think, the worst part that had happened. And like I said, I was surprisingly, I was conscious throughout the event. And I even remember my father's friends had come because everyone heard, it was a small city and everyone heard the loud explosion, and I had to be taken to the hospital. I remember telling my father's friend, who was the one carrying me, that, "Uncle, can you please see my leg? My left leg was upside down." Somehow I had the strength to tell him that, can you put it back up? And so while I'm narrating this, you may wonder that perhaps this is the worst that something can happen to someone, anyone, and especially to someone who's just 13 years old. But let me tell you that this was not the worst. I think the worst part was that followed while I traveled, while I visited hospitals, or while I was visiting various clinics for further treatment. The worst part was how people perceived me, because now my identity had changed. I was no longer just a little girl. I was now a girl who was, I would say, a girl who was disabled, and my identity, and I was doubly discriminated, one because of my gender and one because of my disability. So in Hindi, there is this term called Bechari Ladki. I can translate it to Tamil because I am from Chennai. So Pavam Punda, and in English, it's poor girl. So this is, I think, the tag that was given to me, and everyone around me, except me and my family members, everyone around me had decided the course of my fate, that what's going to happen. I'm not going to have any future ahead, or I'm going to have a dark future. Who is going to marry her, or is she ever going to study again? So these things, I think, the attitudinal barrier that I faced after my accident perhaps was much bigger a discrimination, or much bigger a challenge for me than my own physical injuries. And this happened in 2002, and now it is 2021. I think we have all together survived. It's surreal to feel that everyone throughout the world experienced the pandemic together, and we have all come out of it. We have all survived it, which I'm so grateful for. But that's when I realized that succumbing to my injuries, it was fate. But staying down, wallowing in self-pity, that was a choice. That thing, that was a choice that I didn't want to make. And here, I think, this one thing that has really struck a chord. There is this quote that I want to share, which I'll also bring towards the end of my talk. It goes like this: there is an invisible thread that connects us all to what we are destined to achieve. Now, this thread, it may sometimes tangle. So from a single thought to our destiny, I think this beautiful journey, the sequence of events, I would say this transformation of one's own destiny from a single thought, I would say, solely relies on our willpower. And with this, I want to share five, I would say, simple lessons, simple life lessons, but something that has helped me greatly to overcome my challenges, to overcome my disability. And I'm hoping that you will all have examples towards the end to share, to how would you incorporate these lessons in your life. So what is I think the most important, I would say, my favorite and the most important lesson, something that we have often heard, something that we've been told that it's easier to say than to follow, is the power of never giving up. And I think here I want to share that we are constantly trying new things in life, and it is natural for anybody to be curious and to want to try everything they can in this one beautiful life that we have. And I would say the more we try new things, the more we, I would say, grab onto opportunities. I think failure is going to be a part of our lives. It is likely that there will be one or two incidents that would result in failure. But in fact, if you want to avoid that failure, or perhaps if you're afraid, I think the only thing to do would be to close your door and perhaps never come out of your room, because that's the only way you can avoid new experiences in life. But here is when I realized that, especially from my life, that losing is not failing, but giving up is failing. And how did I understand that? When I was bedridden, I think for about 18 months, I was hospitalized with these external rods that were drilled inside both my legs, as they had to keep them in one piece. And I think I also reduced a bit of my height. I was much taller before my accident. But anyway, while I was bedridden, I remember I was then moved to Chennai from Rajasthan. And I was in touch with my classmate who was back then deciding to write her 10th grade, like preparing for her 10th grade. And here I was bedridden. I, at the time, was not fitted with prosthetic hands. So I tried my luck at a rubber band. I tried to fix around my stump, and I fixed a pen with it, and I started writing letters to her. Of course, I was writing the size of a lemon, size 70, font 72 perhaps. When I was writing those letters, she used to tell me that what everyone was planning to do with their next 10th grade is such an important, I would say, I mean, it's a milestone year for all of us. And there I was bedridden, reading all the reading all the stories of my classmates, but here I was bedridden. But even I started I realized that even I need to have my own dreams, whatever I could at the time. I think my dreams were very simple. I wish to walk again, having constantly told by all my doctors that I would never walk again. In fact, they were going to amputate my left leg as well. The grenade explodes such a way that there are these small splinters. It gets stuck. It got stuck throughout my both my legs, and it was almost impossible to take everything out. So even now, I think when I pass a metal detector, it'll start screaming because I still have some pieces left. The lesson we learned is giving up would be failing, but I decided I would not give up. So that automatically makes me not a failure. At least I had to try. And I remember there were so many incidents. I had to learn to walk with the help of crutches. And this one time, this doctor I met in Chennai, he was a cosmetic surgeon. At one point, the my legs were so disfigured that I was wondering if there's something could be done to ease the, just to have a better, just to ease the sight, because there were these bumps and wounds. So I remember what this doctor told me, I think completely changed my mindset. I think that's also the next lesson. What he said when I was visiting him, he looked at my legs and then he laughed at me. He said that with these kind of injuries, you can never walk. And why are you here to see a cosmetic surgeon? And I remember laughing a little harder than him. And then I said that I had walked all the way from the parking lot to his clinic. And here I am. And he told me that it's with your mind. You Nobody can walk with these kind of injuries. You perhaps walk with your mind. And that's when I think that's what helped me understand that this accident perhaps had taken so much away from me, the ability to walk normally. I was a trained Kathak dancer, but I could never dance again. I think losing hands, giving up on all my hobbies or everything that I love doing with my hands. But the one thing that remained with me and that remains with all of us forever, I think it's our spirit. It's the never give up spirit. It's the can do spirit. It's with the mind. That's what he said. I think our spirit is such that no disability, no loss, or no challenge can take it away from us, which will be my second lesson. So this I think this is what moved me towards following what I wanted to do. And I think after that, I only had 3 months to when my 10th grade exams would begin. Of course, no school would admit me at the time, as I had already missed a year and a half of school just by being in the hospital. I still could walk a few steps, so that's what I was doing, practicing. And I mean, if I could dare to dream higher, perhaps, climb the staircases. And finally, there was a private coaching center where I got the chance to write my exams privately. So if you have cleared your 8th grade, you can appear for your 10th grade, although I still had only 3 months. And I had to learn everything in a new way, because I had to dictate my exams. I couldn't write. So I think it's very natural. We think and we write. That whole process, I think it's very comforting. But for me, to be able to learn how to dictate science diagrams or maths formulas or calculations and graphs, I think all of that was very, very new to me, but of course, a new challenge. And there was no, losing or winning or nothing of that sort. I think it was at the time my only focus was I would want to just write these exams. And with I prepared for 3 months, and I think the result that I got that day, I would say, completely changed the course of how I would look uh, forward in my life. After that, I got a 97 percentage. Strangely, I had never scored so much before the accident. And I think I got the opportunity to meet Dr. Kalam. He was the president at the time. He invited me to Rashtrapati Bhavan along with my father and my mother. And that day, I think I decided that I'm never going to look back, and I'm never, ever, ever going to give up on myself or look back to the person that I was in the hospital. There is only going to be one, I think, course, which is to go forward. Surprisingly, or I would say it's a serendipity that the 10-year anniversary of my accident. So 2002, the accident happened. In the year 2012, around the same day, 26th May 2002, I got the opportunity to walk the ramp as a showstopper to promote fashion for people, accessible fashion for people with disability. I still remember, being told that I would never walk, to actually walking the ramp, wearing a gown that promotes fashion for people with disabilities, and being a showstopper. So these lessons, I think, they truly make me believe that we should not let the fear of time it will take to achieve something stop us. Ultimately, remember the invisible thread. It always connects us to what we are destined to achieve. And not giving up on ourselves won't just make a difference in our own lives. I think it makes a huge impact on people around us. Growing up, for me, all I had was this one and only, I call it my extraordinary finger. I mean, everyone has 10, but I think I made up for all of that with this one. I this is my lone tool to connect with the world, to help me type. I typed my doctorate thesis with it. I have a photo that I would love to share at the end of the talk. It's a 225-page thesis, my doctorate thesis I typed with this hand. And I would say, even though this was a challenge, or even though this was a problem, this was the silver lining. I got the, I like to end up with a tool that would in the end help me achieve so much. And this I think it is true that we cannot control our lives, but we truly can control our attitude towards life. And I want to share a quote here. This is by Scott Hamilton. He says that the only disability in life is a bad attitude. And I always tell my mom that, going by this quote, I don't think I have a disability. I don't think anyone has a disability, only those with a bad attitude. And what is this bad attitude that I'm talking about? It's our, the insecurities that we constantly, or the negative self talk that, or I think the constant criticism that we give to ourselves. I think that would come, I would say that is a bad attitude. It's not fair for us to be so critical or to indulge in such negative self talk, because I think for me, the whole idea of being my own best cheerleader, I would say, with the help of attitude. So this is what makes me believe, then maybe perhaps I don't have a disability, I don't have a bad attitude, so why should I be termed as somebody who's disabled? The 5 years that I spent, I think, was spent completely trying to be someone that I was not. It was trying to hide my disability so that nobody will ever find out that I'm different. I remember at one point, even I was to keep my hands behind my back, and I was so afraid of shaking hands with people. I used to wear full sleeves clothes. I used to cover my legs so that nobody would see the bumps or the wounds. I used to try my best to be like my peers. All I wished, I think, at the time was, how do I be like my classmates? How do I be like them? Because I thought that was what normal was, or that was what was acceptable. I think I tried that for several years. I was spending all my time, energy, effort, everything towards being like my peers. But what happened? Ultimately, what happened was I was exhausted. It was really exhausting trying to be somebody that I was not. So here's when it comes. I think acceptance is the greatest reward that we can give to ourselves. The day I accepted what had happened to me, the day I accepted what my strengths are, what I can do, what I cannot do, I think everything around me changed, and I opened up a world of opportunities for me. When I was, I think this was at the age of 14, when I was trying to realize, or when I was making my best effort to be able to walk again. At the time, I still remember my first statement always used to be, I can never walk, or I cannot walk. These simple negative, these simple factual statements, I wouldn't call them negative, but I cannot walk. So this word, yet, Y-E-T, whenever we are faced with a challenge, I realize that if we just add the word yet to it, we opens, I think, a world of opportunities. So I cannot walk yet, but with practice, with the help of crutches, with the help of therapy, with the help of physical therapy, with the help of more, I think, more practice, with the help, with hard work, with determination. So there was so much to add after the word yet. So I cannot walk yet, but with practice, I will walk again. For example, I cannot write yet, but because I had to dictate my exams, and it was very difficult for me to learn this whole new, I would say, process of dictating my exam to a writer who will write my exams. So I don't dictate fast yet, but with practice, or with learning in a different kind of different way, which will help me remember important points. So every time I was faced with a challenge, I remembered that the word yet, that's what our growth mindset does. So if adding the word yet can completely change the way we look at our challenges.